Every institution has a mandate to be responsive to at least a few pressing issues such as gender equality, environmental consciousness and sustainability, inclusiveness and professional ethics. But the way it addresses these and evolved practices will always be unique for every institution. Every institution faces and resolves various kinds of internal pressures and situations while doing this. Some meaningful practices pertinent to such situations are evolved within the institution, which helps in smooth functioning and leads to enhanced impact. Such practices which are evolved internally, leading to improvements in any one aspect of its functioning, that is academic, administrative, or organizational, are recognized as best practices. Over a period, due to such unique ways of functioning, each institution develops distinct characteristics which becomes its recognizable attribute. To enlighten us about the institutional tenates and its societal influence, we have with us Ms. Shailaja as an eminent speaker for session 6. Ms. Shailaja, Head Department of Biotechnology, has more than 17 years of teaching experience, is the convener for Eco Club, coordinator of co-curricular courses, has been a steering committee member for 3 cycles of NAC, being associated with institutional values and best practices. She has various minor and major research funded projects to her credit, has published several research articles in reputed journals at international and national level, has been the resource person for faculty development programs organized by various institutions. Ms. Shailaja is a proud recipient of Young Teacher Meritorious Award 2016 by the management of St. Anne's College for Women, also Lake Warrior Award from Dhruvansh NGO. We are very pleased to have you with us today, Ms. Shailaja, to share your expertise. Let us welcome Ms. Shailaja. Over to Shailaja.
Yeah, thank you, Santoshi. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
I'm sharing my screen. 1 second. Santoshi, can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yes, Shailaja. Perfect.
Sorry, 1 second. So, a very good afternoon to my dear participants, and I welcome all to this last session of today's 3-day national level FDP on institutional tenets covering criteria 7. So higher education institutions are often looked upon to take a leadership role within the societies, and education is the most important pillar of a civilized and dignified society, and the entire structure of a society, and for that matter the whole nation, depends upon the strength of this pillar. So there is a need to keep emphasizing the importance of human values in educational institutions. Every institute has a social responsibility to be proactive in its efforts towards development. And this role of the institution is reflected in terms of the kinds of programs, activities, and values that the institute incorporates within its regular functioning. So the extent to which an institution is impactful in this is sure a reflection of its quality. So NAC wants to know how an educational institute is successful in creating this impact on its stakeholders and society as well. So thus, under this criteria, the key indicators involve institutional values and social responsibilities, best practices, and institutional distinctiveness. So the major thrust areas that are covered under this criteria 7 involve environmental consciousness, gender equity, disabled friendliness, human values and professional ethics, and best practices and distinctive practices. So coming to the distribution of weightages across these key indicators, uh, there is not much means there is no difference in the weightage as compared to the autonomous colleges as well as the affiliated or constituted colleges under UG and PG. The three key indicators put together account for 100 marks, where the first key indicator on institutional values and social responsibilities accounts for 50% of weightage, best practices 30%, and institutional distinctiveness 20%. So today I would be majorly focusing upon the first key indicator, that is institutional values and social responsibilities, under which we have 4 sections: gender equity, environmental consciousness and sustainability, inclusion and situatedness, and the last one, human values and professional ethics. So under each category, again, we have some sub points and questions. So my focus would be mainly to go question wise and give you an idea of how the activities can be implemented and how the documentation can be done. So moving on to our first key indicator under this component, we have gender equity. And under gender equity, two things are basically considered. The first one is how the institution promotes gender equity and sensitization in the curriculum and co-curricular activities. So as a proposal to this question, the institute can introduce some compulsory courses or certificate courses on women's studies and women and career, women and health, and as well encourage the student and the faculties to conduct survey projects on women issues, undertake research projects and publish papers, and similarly encourage the faculty to author books. Moving on to the second component under the same criteria, we have the co-curricular component of how the gender equity can be promoted within the institutions. So under this co-curricular component, the institute can plan awareness activities, organize seminars, workshops, invite eminent women achievers and personalities for panel discussions, observe important days like International Women Day, Girl Child Day, and organize competitions, concerts, skits, etc. Now, moving on to the second component under gender equity, they are looking into the facilities that are available for women on campus. So, catering to this question, the institutes can look into make available certain facilities like CCTV surveillance, cameras, and availability of security guards in the campus, and take care of fire safety measures, and see that there is biometric attendance available for all students and staff. The class in charge lecturers, mentors, and deans can address the grievances related to the safety of women. Students can be trained in self-defense, and the judo classes can be organized, and see that there is availability of complaint suggestion box. And most importantly, the institutes can go for establishing a center for women's studies and anti-ragging committee. Similarly, counseling rooms, separate common rooms and washrooms can be made available. These are the facilities that are the minimum requirement in any organization. So further, to enhance more activities in this area and increase the sensitization, awareness campaigns can be conducted by reaching out to communities on women empowerment, eve teasing, and usage of mobile safety applications. A structured mentorship program can be planned to cater to the differential needs of the students, and the spaces, special spaces like canopies and cafeteria can be provided to the students to unwind, refresh and relax. So to the SOP that is expected to be submitted under this key indicator is you have to provide an annual gender sensitization action plan. And so in my next slide, I'm giving you a rough template like how the documentation can be done for all the activities conducted irrespective of whether it is a club, a center, or a departmental level activity. The name of the activities can be listed out, action plans, meetings and minutes of the meetings that are planned to execute the action plan. Then the activity report can include the title of the activity, the date, venue, time, the faculty involved, list of participating students, the flyer or the poster designed for the invitation. And if you are conducting the activity outside the college campus, consent letters from a parents is a must. Then a brief report on the overall activity, reflections from the student volunteers, feedbacks from the target groups, photographs, video clippings will support your documentation. And this documentation template can be followed for all the activities that you're conducting, either under extension component, collaboration component, or any activity level. So now moving on to the next key indicator, we have environmental consciousness and sustainability. So as quoted, the key to the growth is introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. This is equally applicable even to the growth of an educational institution. So it is highly essential and the need of the hour in present scenario that we introduce higher dimensions of environmental consciousness into our awareness of our student and faculty uh, community in the institutions. The higher educational institutions in the country can promote these values of environmental education and awareness in several innovative measures and ensure sustainable practices among the students. So under this environmental conscious component, we have 4 subcategories pertaining to facilities that are made available at the institute. One is related to facilities on alternate sources of energy. Then we have water conservation facilities, waste management activities, and what are the kind of green initiatives taken up in the campus. So the first question on facilities for alternate sources of energy and energy conservation measures looks into the availability of these facilities like solar energy, sensor-based energy conservation, and use of power efficient equipment in the organization. If all the facilities are available in an institute, then you can score full marks. The minimum the facilities, the minimum you score. The SOP under this question, the expected documentation, they look into the submission of geotagged photograph of the facilities, the bills for the purchase of the equipment, and any other relevant proof can be submitted. So as I told earlier, the second component under this environmental consciousness is a question pertaining to the management of degradable and non-degradable waste. And again, these are the minimum expected facilities or the type of waste management system that should be available at the institute, catering to all solid waste, liquid waste, e-waste management, and they're also looking into whether you have a waste recycling system and how you handle the hazardous chemicals, radioactive waste materials generated in the labs. And to this question, you need to provide a web link to relevant documents like letter of agreements, because these waste management activities can always be done in collaboration with outside agencies, where you can hand over the collected paper waste, dry waste, or e-waste to specified agencies for proper disposal. And along with that, MOUs with those government agencies and approved agencies can be submitted with geotagged photographs of the facilities. So the third component is about water conservation facilities. So again, they are looking into the availability of, it is a must that we have a rainwater harvesting unit in the campus. What is the kind of water recharge system available? And is there a provision of construction of tanks and bunds to store the water? Is the wastewater recycled? And what is the maintenance of the water bodies, how they are distributed in the campus? And again, the SOP, standard operating procedures, is expected to submit geotagged photographs of the facilities and bills pertaining to the purchase of the equipments that were created under this metric. Now, coming to the fourth component under environmental consciousness, we have green campus initiatives. And these green campus initiatives generally cater to reduction of carbon footprint in the campus. So they usually focus on these parameters like whether there is a restricted entry of automobiles, how many battery powered vehicles we have in the campus, are there pedestrian friendly pathways made available, and does the campus follow a ban or promote a ban of use of plastics, and landscaping with trees and plants becoming the most important criteria, because this has more this landscaping and greening the campus caters to maximum reduction of carbon dioxide emissions in the campus. So under this, the policy document that the college has adopted in implementing the green campus initiatives, geotagged photographs, videos of the facilities, and circulars for the implementation of the initiatives will support the documentation. Now, in my coming slides, I would like to focus on what innovative steps can be implemented to develop environmental consciousness. So apart from gardening and tree plantation, the institutes can focus upon implanting solar powered electricity generating panels on the roofs. And even state and central government are supporting institutions by providing subsidy to implant the solar panels so that it becomes a very efficient alternative for energy consumption. Then coming to the curriculum enrichment component, we can introduce compulsory courses or co-curricular activity courses on science and environment, environment management, environment education, and similarly conduct some survey projects on environmental issues, undertake research projects on environmental problems, and most importantly, the institute can increase the number of collaborations with NGOs, both locally and also at a global level, like WWF, World Wildlife Fund. Now, there is another suggestion, like we can also form student clubs, eco clubs or centers, which can and enroll student volunteers, faculty members, and every year plan out focus areas on themes related to green initiatives, and design your activities on those focus areas or themes. Like the major focus areas can be on planning cleanliness drives, working on projects related to biodiversity or knowing the local biodiversity of your campus, then promoting waste management activities, reducing carbon footprint, and switching over to alternate energy sources. Now, not only at the club level, the green practices can be initiated at institutional level, departmental level, and the clubs level. So at the institutional level, it has become mandatory now to go in for establishing rainwater harvest pits, maintenance of a botanical garden where the naming of the each and every plant in the campus is done with the scientific and the local names, installation of solar lamps, use of LED bulbs, creating less plastic zones in the campus, and switching over to paperless office. And at departmental levels, it is advised that every department can initiate a green practice every year under the environmental consciousness component and keep regularly practicing that initiative so that that value can be incorporated into the functioning of the department as well as the institution. So like a biotechnology department can take over the installation of biogas plant, zoology departments can look into vermicomposting pit, then all the departments can promote eco-friendly alternatives like use of only cloth bags, etc. Then at the club levels, the eco clubs of the college and the ICT centers can take care of e-waste management and organize activities related to cleanliness drives and other such activities. So moving on to the next slide, some more suggestions here. It is advisable to establish an environmental audit cell in the college to make use of both the students and the experts to promote measures towards renewable energy consumption, greening the campuses, terrace gardening, and also to work on biodiversity conservation. In every campus, according to the available spaces, vermicomposting pits can be developed. Vehicle-free day may be organized at least once in a month to promote the necessity of walk among students and staff. The college websites shall provide the activities that are promoted in the institution on sustainable practices and its importance so as to uh, promote others can get motivated by such measures. It is advised to adopt a green model in higher education, which involves three main components: creating awareness on green education, offering curriculum on green concepts and processes, and applying those green concepts in industry and society. So the pedagogy also should include the real world learning experiences that learning so that the learning becomes very fruitful. And the subjects that can be included under this kind of system can be like organic farming, green transportation, etc. And it is also advisable that the faculty assign innovative projects to students to come up with solutions to environmental problems both in the campus and in nearby locality. Coming to water conservation ideas, I think most of the organizations might already be following these practices. Just to mention a few, like you can use the enhance use of push button taps, see that there is no leakage from the taps. The use of condensed water from the AC can be used for gardening. Sprinklers can be used for watering the lawn, and reverse osmosis can be used for recycling of the water. Then to manage liquid and e-waste, green chemistry approach can be adopted, and to reduce the excess production of harmful chemicals. Then the e-waste that is collected can be documented, like how much e-waste is generated and how you are handing it over. You can have MOUs and letter of agreements with outside agencies for its proper disposal. These are few glimpses of our college reflecting the landscaping and greenery of our campus. In coming to waste management activities, it is advisable to implement the twin bin system so that the waste is segregated at the source itself. This is a very important habit which can be inculcated among the student fraternity so that we can promote a zero waste, as all the wet waste that is segregated can be composted to green manure, and the dry waste can be recycled to outside agencies. Then innovative programs like well-being out of waste can be organized in the nearby schools, and wherein the habit of saving trees, like by donating the old books and notebooks and textbooks, the students can get new stationery and new notebooks. We can demonstrate kitchen waste composting, conduct competitions related to best out of waste, upcycle the e-waste, and other such competitions can be promoted. Then observing eco calendars, switching to eco-friendly alternatives, reaching out to nearby communities, and organizing cleanliness plantation drives can be beyond campus environmental promotional activities. These are a few glimpses of the green initiatives and awareness activities conducted at our college. We promote clay idols, we celebrate festivals in eco-friendly way, we arrange stalls promoting eco-friendly paper bags, we train the students to make the paper bags, we encourage participation of students in lake cleaning, plantation drives near the lakes. Then we also reach out to community. This is these glimpses are about the garbage to garden activity done in our nearby community and households, well-being out of waste in schools and colleges. And also we take our students for nature trekking to become aware of the biodiversity component. So now we have covered the 4 major components of the facilities and the green initiatives that are initiated in the educational institutions. Now this question caters to a quality check, a quality audit, and all these measures that have been implemented in the campus. So NAC usually looks into whether the institution has gone for a green audit, energy audit, environmental audit, and is the institute recognized for clean and green campus initiatives? Are there any awards? And what are the kind of beyond the campus promotional activities done by the college? So again, reports on environment and energy audits can be submitted here. So mainly green audit SOP includes uploading a policy document on environment and energy usage and certificate from the concerned agencies, and report on the environmental promotional activities with geotagged photographs can be the supporting documents. Basically, a green audit is a tool of management system which caters to the protection and conservation of the environment. And this audit suggests different standard parameters and methods so that, which are useful to detect and monitor 5 main categories, like you can monitor the sources of environmental pollution, how the different types of waste generated in the college are managed, how the energy consumption is implemented in the campus. So you can monitor the energy consumption, monitor the quality and quantity of water, as well monitoring the hazards, safety of the stakeholders, etc. So aims and objectives of an environmental audit in an academic institution usually make sure that rules and regulations are taken care of to avoid the interruptions in environment, and we give preference to more energy efficient and environment friendly campus in the institutions. We can also minimize on the consumption of water, identify the risks of hazard, implement the policies for the safety of the stakeholders, as well training all the stakeholders and empowering them to participate in environmental protection. So the last component under environmental consciousness also includes what kind of disabled friendly barrier free environment that the institute provides to the Divyanjans. So do the campus has environment built with ramps, lifts for easy access to classrooms? Is there a provision for disabled friendly washrooms and assistive technology and facilities for persons with disability? Is there a screen reading software available in the campus, and provision for enquiry and information on human assistants like a reader, scribe, etc.? Again, under this component, the standard operating procedure refers to policy document that is adopted by the college, and the information brochure should be made available, and only link to all the geotagged photos, videos of the facilities, bills and invoices, all these the bills for the software procured for providing the assistance have to be supported in the documentation. Now we are moving on to the, so until now we have covered gender equity and environmental consciousness components under the main key indicator of institutional values and social responsibilities. Now we are moving on to the 2 more important indicators. The one is inclusion and situatedness, followed by human values and professional ethics. So again, catering to this indicator, NAC is looking into what are the kind of initiatives that the institute provides to promote tolerance, harmony towards cultural, regional, communal, and socio-economic diversities that exist in your locality. So activities pertaining to the local festivals, events can be done in the form of celebrations marking important days where flash mobs, dance, skits, role plays can be organized in the campus. These are a few glimpses of the activities done under this key indicator in our college, promoting Christmas celebrations, Onam celebrations, Bathukamma festival, which is a local festival of Telangana. And again, you are expected to provide a web link with all the supporting documents reflected in the administrative and academic activities of the institution. Now, moving on to the last component under institutional values, we have human values and professional ethics. These are the two faces of the same coin and are highly intertwined. Values are beliefs that guide or motivate attitudes and action. Ethics are standards of conduct that indicate how one should behave. The success of an institution's mission and vision is driven by a value-based ethical behavior of its committed faculty members, staff, and students. So the tenets of human values need to be embedded at three levels: individual level, interpersonal level, and intra-institutional level. Again, under this key indicator, there are three subcategories.
Shailaja?
Yeah,
Shailaja,
I'm
sorry
concluding in another. Yeah. I'm just closing in another 5 minutes. So this question caters to how the institution sensitizes students and employees to constitutional obligations pertaining to values, rights, and duties. And those details of the activities that have been organized in the campus can be documented in the form of a report and submitted. These are few days, national and international commemorative days, which can be observed in the college campus and can be celebrated, like National Mathematics Day, Kalidasa Jayanti, Arabic Day, Hindi Divas, so on, National Voters Day. Then the 7.1.10 pertains to code of conduct for students, teachers, and what kind of periodic programs are organized in this regard. And are looking into whether the code of conduct is displayed on the website. Is there a committee to monitor the adherence to this code of conduct, and does the institution organize professional ethics programs for students and teachers, and are there any annual awareness programs promoting this? Again, you are expected to upload a code of ethics policy document, minutes of the committee which monitors these activities, and the number of programs organized, and reports on the various programs. These are at our institution, we have a student handbook made available to the students to propose the code of conduct for the students and the staff. And these are the books that have been written by our faculty on human values. So education is not limited to imparting of information or training of skills. It has to give the educated a proper sense of values, as quoted by Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. So here is an implementation plan that can be adopted for the teaching fraternity, wherein workshops and training programs can be organized, and teachers can be encouraged for involving other stakeholders in curricular, co-curricular activities, promoting teachers to take up interdisciplinary research based on human values and professional ethics. And here is an implementation plan for students where foundation courses on human values and professional ethics at the UG level can be introduced, and an advanced course at the PG level. Outreach programs can be organized on human values in the form of trainings, workshops, orientation programs, assignments, and short projects on the tenets of human values. Promoting human values through social responsibilities, services like participation in national schemes, Fit India, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Jal Sanrakshan Abhiyan can be encouraged. And again, these are different methodologies that can be implemented. I'm just skipping this slide and moving on to the last question under this indicator. We have to the institution has to describe the efforts in organizing national commemorative, international commemorative days, events, and festivals, and provide a web link to the annual report of the days that are celebrated in the last 5 years with geotagged photographs of the events. Again, a few glimpses of the celebrations of these days at our college with some competitions organized. So I would like to end this presentation with a quote that sustainability is no longer about doing less harm, it's about doing more good. So on this note, I end my presentation, and thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you, Shailaja. I now invite Ms. Indira for queries from the chat box. Indira?
Thank you, Mrs. Santoshi. First, we have a couple of questions to Anuradha ma'am. The first query is, can you suggest some criteria to bring research culture in the college campus?
Okay, as I suggested in the way forward, I was saying first we need to conduct a survey, identify the challenges, and then move forward. That is, first we need to identify at the institutional level what are the challenges, at the individual level what kind of constraints they have, and then probably we can chart out a map where we can identify how to progress. First, of course, it is the institution and the faculty are important, also having tie-ups with the outsiders, conducting MOUs and several others. One after the other will follow. But first, identifying the challenges and trying to find ways and means to address them is very important. Accordingly, we can customize it to the institution. That is what I strongly feel. And then the culture is the norm. Whatever are the inputs and the questions asked in the NAC criteria, I think accordingly we can adhere to those and then create an ambience where the faculty feel encouraged to do. Okay, ma'am.
Another question from NSN Swami. How can the seed money is procured in government affiliated colleges?
Sir, I think in government affiliated colleges, there is a separate allocation for each element, especially for research. And as a research scholar, you can actually apply to the government under various schemes. And there is MRPs under UGCs basically. And then you can apply for allocation directly to the higher education for grant of money by submitting your proposals. Your proposals will be screened and then probably called for an interview, and accordingly the amount will be sanctioned. Even if you have applied for 2 lakhs, you may not get the entire amount. You might get according to what is being assessed at that institutional level. That is exactly what I feel for with regards to government colleges. And for the others, it is open. You can apply to UGC if it is an aided college, affiliated aided college, and you have several other funding agencies that you have to identify. Like even Tata's, the Ford Foundation, even the Infosys, there are several foundation groups which are ready to fund research, and they have got their nodal centers in almost all capital cities. I think you can identify depending from which area you belong and accordingly work on it. Proposals are a must for each of them.
Ma'am, another last question. So from Praveen Kumar, in our college, we don't have data of previously published papers. So list is there, is any list is there to get from any other sources like Google Scholar?
I am not very sure whether it is without any idea of what has been published, where you have published. Probably with the name and the title, you can Google and then identify if they were published in any peer-reviewed, identified national, international journals. I'm sure you will be able to gather details. But without the title, at least with the faculty name, maybe you can try. There is a possibility, but to what extent, we cannot guarantee. But if it is a very old database, then it might become difficult to retrieve. It all depends on where it has been published. And with the titles and names, maybe a trial can be made.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we move on to the question for Jyoti, ma'am. Are the faculty working on deputation considered as faculty exchange? Jyoti, ma'am, a question for you.
I think I can take this because the deputation on extension, if it is in any authenticated institutions where there is a agreed documentation, and if there has been an agreement between both the parties, the institution from where the faculty has been assigned and the deputing place where he had gone to, I'm sure it is eligible. It is absolutely eligible. Deputation definitely is eligible for exchange program and extension.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. One question for Shailaja, ma'am. What is institution distinctiveness asked by Guruswami, Mr. Guruswami?
Institutional distinctiveness can cater to any one unique feature that the college is at its best. So we at our institution, we have our strength and support is our unique feature is our sports. So that becomes the institutional distinctiveness and how you promote and cater to the requirements of the students and bring them up to train them in such a way that they come up to performing at national and international level. So like that, you can identify any one unique distinctive practice that the institution has adopted and has been successful in catering to the needs of the students.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think I will just add one point to this. It is different for each institution. So you have to sit together, your faculty and management, and then decide what is your best feature. You can ask students, you can ask alumni, how does that particular college gets identified as a recall factor? This was good for this. That is how you have to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Indra.
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we are done with all the queries posted in the chat box. Now, and I hand over to Mrs. Santoshi.
Thank you, Indira. I thank all the speakers for being so patient enough and answering the queries from the chat box.